Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Zdenek's English podcast. And here is another episode for you. And this time I have a really interesting guest. Her name is Orla. Hi, Orla.
Hi, Zdenek, and hi, everybody else.
How are you doing?
I'm not too bad at all, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks.
It's
So,
nice to
first of
see you
all,
again.
it's nice to see you too. The first thing I have to ask you about is how do we spell your name? Because while I was in Ireland, I learned that there are two ways you can pronounce the name Orla. So, which one is you, Orla?
Okay, so I hope there's no other way to pronounce it, but there are lots of different spellings.
Oh, did I
So,
say pronunciate? No,
yes,
I
that's
meant
okay.
spell. Spell. Sorry,
That's
sorry.
okay. So, the easiest way to spell it is how my name is spelled, which is Orla.
Mm,
However, there's an old Irish way of spelling, and it has an O with like an aigu, a French aigu. In Irish, we call it a father. So it's O father or Fhlaith,
mm,
which people look at and they think is Orfleth, but it's actually Orla. Because,
yeah.
like a lot of Irish names, there are lots of silent letters in it. So ORLA is the most common spelling. ORLAITH is another one, which is quite an Irish spelling. And again, you have your ITH or silent. There's Orla with a GH at the end, which is also silent. Lots of Irish names have a silent GH.
Yeah.
So there are lots of spellings. And my poor parents, I was always very angry that they gave me the boring spelling because as a child, you always want the exotic spelling. My
Do
own
you?
children's names are very exotic. They have the proper Irish spelling of all of them, and
Would
they're zany
Would you like
and
to
very hard.
share the names with us? What are
So
their
we have
names?
a Fionnuala, but Fionnuala is spelt with a silent GH in the middle. So FIONNGHUALA, 11 letters. The second child, we moved down a little and we have only 9 letters in hers. So
Oh,
she's Bloneth. And there's a silent TH in the middle of hers, BLA for the THNAID. And then the third girl is called Aideen. And Aideen is an English name, but there's an Irish spelling. So it's E
mm,
for the A, D, AOIN. 7 letters. So if we'd had a fourth, we would have called it a 5 lettered name. But
I
we didn't
see.
get that far.
So,
Yeah.
so there's a method to the madness. So basically, you were trying to make up for the fact that your own name is, in your
Oh,
own words, boring. So you wanted to uh,
Zdenek,
make it more
totally.
interesting
Because
for your children.
yeah, because when my first child was born and I told my mother the name was Fanula, she said, "I don't like the name, but if it's the name you've picked, this is the Irish way to spell it, and I will never forget how cross you were." So there you go. So I blame my mother for it. But
Okay,
there
cool.
are lots of conversations created, and Fanula works, or she's studying in London, in Manchester, in England. So there are lots of conversations with there are lots of international students there. She's in RNCM. And so lots of the international students are fascinated by the look of her name, the spelling of her name, and the pronunciation of her name. So
Mhm.
a talking point.
Lovely. Well, I think by now it's obvious to everyone that Orla is Irish from Ireland, right?
Absolutely.
And to give this just a little bit more context, we worked together for a short period of time in Dublin, and it was really nice to meet you, Orla, and have a pint of Guinness with you as well. That's what we did. Remember?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And a board game. The board game was
Oh yeah.
particularly enjoyable. I really enjoyed that part of it.
Can you remind me which board game we played? Because I can't.
It was I can't remember the name of it, but it was the Hitler one. The
Oh,
Liars.
Secret
What
Hitler.
was it
Okay.
called? The Secret
Secret
Hitler.
Hitler.
Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant, but I would never play it with my family because it would create war,
Yeah,
because
it is a
it's
very
chaotic
tense
but
game. Yeah.
very intense, but
Yeah.
absolutely wonderful. I really enjoyed it. It was a good evening.
Okay, brilliant. So, thank you very much for accepting my invitation to be a guest on the next English podcast. Part of the reason I wanted to have you on is because you have a really really cool Instagram account where you essentially help people cook, and you produce, in my humble opinion, very quality videos. So, how did this all come about, Orla?
So I suppose my day job is I'm a secondary teacher in Ireland. I teach English and music. And in secondary school, you can have extra jobs. You know, there are posts in schools. So there are what are called assistant principals. So you have the principal of a school, the deputy principal, and then you have two categories of assistant principals. And so I am an assistant principal one. So this means that I am supposed to work maybe an extra 5 hours a week on top of my teaching job. And it's kind of middle management in the school. So for the last 10 years, my middle management post has been PR in our school. And so I suppose I've always had an interest. I think I joined Facebook in 2011, and my children were young at the time and were slightly horrified that I had lots of friends all over the world because I used to play Farmville. If anyone here is old enough to
Ah,
know Farmville, I had people from all over the world that used to send me oil and send me bushels of corn and all sorts. And so
that was a
I'm
mobile game, wasn't it?
it was on Facebook. So it was, you connected
Ah, yes,
through Facebook. So I had
okay.
all these Facebook friends from all around the world. And I kind of thought, but should they don't know who I am? They know nothing about me. Until one day I Googled myself and I thought, oh my gosh, I worked for the Music Teachers Association in Ireland. So my phone number was there, my home address was there, my email. And I thought, oh, maybe this isn't such a good idea. But I've always been interested in social media. I love social media. I like to keep up to date. I think as a secondary teacher, I teach age 12 to 18.
Mhm.
I think it's really important that you are in touch with what they are in touch with, because particularly when you teach English, the English course in Ireland, the Leaving Cert course for English, I love it. It's fascinating. It's lots of sort of debate and argument and conversation, which then translates to the page. A lot of it is about developing your own personal writing style. And
Yeah.
so that comes from whatever is going on in the world. So I like to kind of keep up to date. So I was always interested in social media. So I became the PR person at school, and I managed the school Facebook page, the school Instagram page. We have a very poorly operating TikTok page, terrible at TikTok. We have a Twitter feed that someone else minds because I hate Twitter, even though
Yeah.
educators love Twitter. I
I don't,
just don't do Twitter.
to be honest, I'm with you on that. I don't
I
really like
actually still
Twitter.
don't I actually still don't quite know how to tweet. You know, I'm kind of going, did I tweet or what did I do
No.
there? Or
You
did
know
I
what?
send a private message? It's
I think
weird.
I think Twitter is mostly for really famous people,
Yeah.
and then you
Yeah.
sort of like follow them, and you're like, "Oh, what's happening in your life?" It's like you want all those gossips, and
Yeah.
it first comes like Donald Trump used to use Twitter, right? So
45 or
that
4.5 billion or something he had
that is
following him.
that is an
Yeah.
example until he was banned, I believe, right?
Until he
Something.
was banned. And then he set up his own. He has set up his own social media platform at the moment.
Okay.
So I don't know. But anyway, so that's kind of where my love of social media started. I was a real Facebook fan. And then about 3 years ago, I discovered Instagram. And very much from the teenagers at school who said, Miss, Facebook is boring. Oh, no, that's for old people. And even though I'm old, as you can tell from my hair, I don't like to think of myself as old. Inside, I'm still 25. So I kind of thought, I wonder what this Instagram is about. And I love the immediacy of it. I love the I love the reels. I mean, sure, you can spend hours every day.
Yeah.
So it has started with school, and then I suppose you kind of like to do things for yourself. I'm at the place in my life where I'm 2 years from retirement. I'm hoping to retire early because my husband is older than me, so he's already retired, and our children will all be in college from next year. So in 2 years in Ireland, you are offered the opportunity for a smaller retirement pension. You can retire early, and it kind of paves the way and gives space to young teachers. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to do that. But I kind of think I won't be old enough to just retire and, sit in a chair and wait for the Grim Reaper. So I kind of have lots of things I'd like to do in the future. And um, I love writing. I
Mm.
do the media articles as well for school. So I write for the local newspapers. Really enjoy that. But there's an immediacy to social media that I love. And so I started at the end of lockdown last year. There was an Instagram page called Kitchen Sanctuary. Always
Mhm.
posted really easy videos for food. And I'm also a foodie person. I love cooking. I love baking. I'm from a big family. Cooking for 25 people is kind of an average Sunday for me
Oh,
because, well, because if our family gets together, there are 40 of us in my immediate family, brothers,
wow.
sisters, and siblings, children, and my parents. So cooking was never a big deal. It was always like easy to do. And I suppose I kind of thought, what could I do? I had a page before. I used to follow a keto lifestyle, which was high fat, low carb. And I used to blog about that. And so I had a blog page called Banting in Ireland. Banting is a South African style of eating.
Okay.
And I enjoyed that. But again, it was kind of a very specialist thing. And I am a mammy and I love cooking. So last year, I think in April 2021, Irish Mammy Cooks was born. And
So
if
that's
you just
your
don't
that's your
know,
Instagram account.
so
So
the
Irish
Irish
mommy
Cooks,
mommy cooks. Can you spell
yes.
it out for us so that hopefully
So
some of our
Irish,
listeners can add you?
so I'm Irish as in IRISH. Then there's an underscore, Mammy, which is the Irish way of saying mother, MAMMY, Irish Mammy, underscore cooks, COOKS. And that's me. And I
Perfect.
started by posting photographs. So I just took a photograph of my dinner and I posted the recipe and I posted a method. And I have lots of recipe books, but I never follow any of them. So
Mhm.
everything I cook is kind of what I cook.
Yeah.
Um, Actually today I made cookies. Um, there's an art exhibition coming up at school, and I'm doing the catering for it. At the end of August, and we're doing nibbles. So I made 100 mini New York style cookies.
Mhm.
Um, but that was a recipe I actually almost followed to a T. But I suppose in lots of ways, I'm intuitive in everything I do. As a teacher, I don't follow the plan ever. I don't know if that's a good thing as a teacher. Zdenek, what do you think?
I do it a lot myself. So it's there is a method called dogme, which I've been using myself for a long time now, and I find that the students like it. And the most important thing is the students, right?
Yeah,
Not a thing really, but you know what I mean. It's
absolutely. Yeah.
it's up to the students, and if the students are happy, then you must be doing a good job, right?
Absolutely. And I think it's about the relationship with your students and about how you get on with them. And I think, you know, I suppose for me, I'm sad to think teaching is going very much the way in Ireland. It's interesting to see teaching is following the path of England, where everything is planned and there's an awful lot of admin and all of that. So I
Yeah.
suppose I'm a kind of a rebel against that. And of course I know the plan and it's sitting there in the corner looking pretty. I hope my principal never watches this podcast. Sorry if you are, Michelle. Uh, but I think it's really interesting to sort of be able to look at that and say, okay, so that's the plan, but this is the reality. Because in every single room, and you know yourself, every single person you teach,
It's
you might be
different.
teaching the very same course and you might be teaching the very same grade and the very same standard. But because of the person in front of you, it's a very different experience. And
Yeah.
cooking for me is like that. So you find something in a cookbook and you say, oh, that looks nice. Oh, I hate onions. I hate raw onions. So all these recipes that call for raw onions, does that mean I can't cook them? No, it just means I do my version of them. So, and then I can't help myself. Everything I do, I teach when I do it.
Mhm.
So that's why the blog started, and I started sort of saying, I always believe if it's not easy to cook, we shouldn't be cooking it. Because if
Mm.
it takes you 20 hours in the kitchen, what the hell is that about? Like, you want it to be something that tastes nice,
Yeah.
but that's easy, and that you're not kind of
Absolutely.
slaving for a day and saying, oh my
Absolutely.
God, and you're too tired to talk to the people who are eating your food. And I also think it's a very Irish thing, Zdenek, to feed people.
Mm.
Um, you go to an Irish house. I loved your last your YouTube. I watched one of your YouTube
Which one?
videos, the one where you were chatting about Dublin and being in
Oh,
Ireland.
yeah.
Um, I smiled when you said you found Irish people very friendly.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, the people that you worked with who were Irish, as an Irish person, I also found them very friendly. Everybody isn't like that, but they were, and I suppose I was the old style welcoming Irish person. And
Mm.
in Ireland, you would never go to someone's house, but they would say to you, "You'll have a cup of tea." And oh, she'll have a bit of dinner with us. Will you have a scone there? There's always something in the freezer, or there's always fresh cake there, or so
Mm,
I suppose it's a real Irish thing to feed people.
yeah.
And there were 12 children in my family. I'm one of 12 siblings. And so my mother cooked, and in our house, to show love, she cooked. And that was a real sign of affection. So
Mm,
for me, cooking is very much about love and about spreading love.
mhm.
So, and it's a real passion of mine, as you
Comes from
can.
your heart, really, and
Totally. And when people say, oh my God, that just tastes so good, like, what is it? It is that. Like, I don't cook for money, never
yeah.
have. And actually, we're doing the catering for the art exhibition. And it's kind of strange because it's my first paid catering gig. But I mean, I'm not being paid per se. I'm being paid to provide the ingredients. But it's just, it's a different thing when you cook for a profession or you cook for
Yeah.
money. When you cook just because you want to satisfy people, then the love that goes into it is the extra, the je ne sais quoi, that ingredient that you can't actually define.
Mm,
And it really does make it taste better.
mm.
You never tasted any of my food, Zdenek. I'll have to send you. I'll send
I
you a little a parcel
I can
to
I
the
can
Czech Republic.
I can taste it every day on your Instagram account.
There you go. No, well, someday I do make things that travel well, so maybe I'll send you some chocolate biscuit cake. That's one of the firm favorites here, and we make it so often now we don't eat it ourselves. But it
Or or
travels well.
or maybe one day I'll return to Ireland. You never know.
Exactly.
You never know.
You can come to
I
Monaghan and you can have an Irish mammy cooks dinner.
now I have another reason to go there.
Exactly. And between that and Claire's fiddle playing, I hadn't realized until the last day that I was there that Claire is a fiddle player. So that's another one of those really
Oh,
Irish
Claire is
things.
one. Claire is what we have to explain who Claire is
Claire is one of the other teachers
to our
that was working
listeners
with
here.
us. Yeah,
Exactly, she was our colleague. Yeah,
yeah.
and she's a
And
fiddle player. Yeah,
yeah,
you
she's a
say.
fiddle player. And
Yeah,
fiddle is violin.
yeah.
And people ask, and actually music is my other subject that I teach. So I was fascinated to see her arrive the last day with her fiddle, and I thought, what is she doing? And I said, do you play? And she said, yeah. But she was going to Leitrim for, and once she said she was going to Leitrim, I knew it was Irish music. So um, it's the fiddle is exactly the same instrument as the violin.
Mm,
It's just that it's held a different way. And I'm
okay.
sure you will have a great chat with her about that in the future. I've no doubt.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
She can explain.
If
Yeah,
she wants to be on the podcast, we have explored this topic of music before, but this would
yeah,
be from a completely different angle again. So that's always
exactly.
appreciated.
Exactly. There you
So
go.
lovely. So going back to your Instagram account, then.
Yeah.
Those videos, sometimes you feature your children in them, right?
The first time ever was this week, actually.
Ah,
Normally it's just me.
okay.
And until, so for the first 8 months, I didn't talk and I didn't appear.
Mhm.
Um, I just show the food and I did a print, I typed up the recipe
Yeah.
underneath. And my eldest niece is married and she has a lovely husband, Tig, and Tig said, I like your blog. There's just there's just something missing. And I said, what is it? And he said, you, Orla. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, you have a nice voice to talk because I'm a singer. That's my musical instrument when I was a music student was voice. I sang.
Yeah.
And I don't have anyone who's listening who's saying Irish people are easy to understand. Irish people don't all talk like me. Just so you know,
Yeah.
um, the accents can be very strong. And where I live and up north, they talk with an accent like this, and it can be very difficult to understand them. But I'm from Kildare, which is quite close to Dublin, and I have, I suppose, a neutral accent.
Mm.
Um, my parents were from the south, from Cork and Clare, and so my accent is very non specific.
But
But Tig said, "Yeah, you have a good voice. You should really appear, or you should talk." So then I started doing voiceovers, and because I was doing voiceovers, I thought, "Oh, maybe I can add a bit of video." And so I started adding video, and I use InShot. I don't know if anybody knows of InShot, the little video app.
yeah, it's an app that for editing videos. Yeah.
for
Mm.
editing videos. I think I paid 34 euros to buy it as an app because
Yeah.
I hated having all the little InShots on the bottom of my videos. And I used it for school as well. And I just, oh my God, I became obsessed with InShot and it was so handy, but it takes so long when you're cooking. You have to
Yeah.
stop, you have to video. And then my poor children were roped in, not on camera, but just holding the camera while I was
Yeah.
stirring. And then in February or March of this year, I decided to take the plunge and just appear once. And I suppose I'm a teacher, and when you're a teacher, you don't kind of like appearing on social media either because it can leave you open to, I suppose,
Mhm.
abuse. It can leave you open to sort of difficulties. Um, but I teach in a wonderful school and our students are amazing. And I have never been heckled. I've never had a nasty comment. Lots
Mhm.
of my students from last year, when I set up the blog, they follow me still and they'll send messages.
You know
And
what? I think if anything, they respect you even more now. I think that's what happens when you do that
yeah,
because
well,
you're
and I
this cool teacher who's just not afraid, to do that.
Well,
I,
that's the
I'm
thing. I think, yeah, like I think that's really good for adults to kind of jump in a little bit. Children have no fear and they're so confident. It's
yeah.
interesting, even with young teachers, when you're an older teacher, I don't know, Zdenek, if you ever suffer this anxiety of, oh my God, am I good enough? I'm teaching
Uh,
31 years. And sometimes I think, oh, I didn't do that well, or oh God, I could have done that better. Oh, I don't feel like
yeah.
I did that the
I
right way
think
for
I
these
think I
children,
think it has a name even. It's called the imposter syndrome. Yeah. So I
Yeah,
I think each of us at some point in their career might have felt in that kind of way, but well, touch wood, I don't usually feel like that. But
yeah.
I admit I may have occasionally had moments like that. Yeah. But
And
not-
me,
yeah.
I think it's only in the last couple of years I kind of don't have imposter syndrome because I always think, oh my God, there's somebody who's better at it, or I could do it better.
Yeah.
And of course I could do it better. But then you kind of have to say, but actually I could be doing it a lot worse as well.
Yeah. The
But I
point
think
is
young people,
the point is you are your unique self. That's what it is
I
about,
know.
isn't it? And everybody is different, and you just need to find your audience, so to speak.
Yeah. But well, what I think is interesting is young people, can you do that? Yeah. Are you good? Yeah. I mean, even at interviews, you'll go into an interview, and I remember doing an interview for my post and getting feedback afterwards. And the head of the panel said, Orla, it's not your job to tell us what's wrong with you. You were trying to sell yourself in an interview.
Yeah.
Why would you tell us the bad things? And the young ones going in, can you do that? Yeah, I'm brilliant at that. So I think that is the thing I think I really admire in young people. And I suppose that's the thing about going on camera on my blog. I thought, just going to do it and see what happens. And so I did. And actually, my page really moved from there, and people started engaging and sending messages, and I love it. I really enjoy it. And I think when I stop enjoying it, I'll stop doing it. But it is something I really, really like to do. And I think so many people feel like they can't cook and they feel, oh my God, I can't, or I can't follow a recipe, or it's too hard. And I
Yeah.
think, no, look, this is how easy it is. And there you go. So we can all be cooks.
Fantastic. I love it. I love this attitude, this energy, this enthusiasm. We need it. We all need it. Yeah.
Well, that's it. I unfortunately it's exhausting living with me, but
Is it?
yeah,
Why?
I kind
Why
of
so? Why
yeah
so?
because when I get an idea in my head, I just have to go with it then. So Sunday morning I got up and I thought I'm going to clean all the cushion covers in the sitting room because it's a beautiful day, and so we had to remove all the cushion covers, and it's a very stressful job, but we did it. They were all done, and so and I suppose I'm the same at school. But I think you feed off other people, and
Yeah.
what you get back from your blog, then you give back in spades. You know, I think it's
I,
I don't know. I enjoy it.
I'm sure you found your feet with this blog, and like, if you have the followers, that I mean, this is the proof. If people love it,
Well,
if people engage with you, if people like the content
yeah,
you create, and I saw that they do. I saw it.
yeah,
I saw the
I know
number of
it is.
followers you have and the likes you are getting, way more than me. So I am trying to get inspired by this myself, to be honest with you. I guess
Well,
I have to
I think
start
you have to
posting about food
engage.
a little bit.
No, but I think actually because I've been following you recently, and it's really nice when you come on screen. And I think that's the thing that people like engaging. I follow another person on Instagram, and um she's a cleaning mammy. She's Irish cleaning mammy or something. I can't remember what her blog name is, but she has a very Irish accent. And she comes on and she posts, she sits on stories for 20 stories, and you kind of are fatally fascinated by this, and you just find yourself watching her talking about her day, and she talks about son 15 and son 20. She doesn't name them, but it is this, and we are all so obsessed with social media now that I think it's the thing of engaging with a real person,
Yeah. You
and you
see,
kind of
I
get
like
to
this
know
as
that
well.
person.
I
Yeah,
like this as well, Orla, but there is a limit to it. So sometimes it just exhausts me. If I do too much of it, I just can't
absolutely.
do I just can't do it anymore. Yeah. So like
Yeah,
some I have days when I just don't want to post anything or don't want to be seen on camera, but I have to keep going because I know with this I have to remain consistent, and that applies to my podcast, the YouTube,
yeah.
everything I do. And
But
the
I,
problem is what the second it starts feeling like a routine,
yeah,
and the second it starts feeling like a job, the thing is, it is now my job. It didn't used to be. When I started this podcast, and I've said this to my listeners many times before,
yeah,
it was just an experiment. I just wanted to do something different. I talked about my life. And now it is a job. It is part of the job because it
yeah,
helps my marketing. Because
yeah,
I can actually offer something to my listeners here. I have listeners, I have English courses you can buy from me. You can book private lessons with me. You can
yeah,
do all these things. And now I have come to a point when I have realized this. It
yeah,
all happened with the pandemic as well. When I became
yeah,
independent, you know.
yeah,
So
yeah,
now I have to do this. Sometimes it feels like, oh, it's too much. I don't want to do
yeah.
this anymore.
I know.
You know what I mean?
Well, what's interesting about Instagram is when you stop posting, suddenly Instagram starts pushing your materials a little more. So
Yeah,
over the summer, because I have more time obviously over the summer when I'm not teaching to post, but then I also have fallow periods during the summer where I just couldn't be bothered. So I don't. And then I'll come back and I go, how did I get 10 more followers there? I didn't post anything for 4 days. And it's because they're obviously pushing my reels. And Instagram is pushing reels because TikTok is all about the reel. So Instagram is all about the reel. But what I now do is I follow, there's a really good marketing girl. I can't remember her page name, but I follow her and I look at what she does, and she gives you really good ideas for things that you can do so that
yeah.
you are constantly posting, but it's not hard work because honestly, to make a reel, a video, oh my God, like it takes an hour and a half, 2 hours, and sometimes you're going, I could not be arsed doing this
Why am I even
because
doing that? Yeah, I
I
know. I've
know
done
how
a
to make
few.
these go.
I've done a few
Yeah,
reels before. It's just such a short. Like when you watch it, it's like 5 seconds sometimes. But then
exactly.
to
And
do
you're
it
going,
to do it
Jesus, that
properly,
took
you
me
have
so
to like
long.
lip sync. You have to lip sync. You have to like, I don't know, find the music. Then you have to edit it. You
Yeah,
have
no,
to
I've
write the
never done the lip syncing.
captions and all that. And
Yeah.
it just takes ages, and people don't realize it. And that's why, like, I
You
would
see,
like
the
to make
writing
more
part
of
is
these reels. But go on.
so the writing part for me is easy because I love writing. So, in every recipe there's a little story. And so, I kind of explain or
Yeah,
whatever. So I don't mind the writing part. It's the putting together of the video. And so today, for example, when I made the cookies, the video was on for 10 minutes and I turned on the video, and then my husband landed in the kitchen in the fridge and I said, Jesus, I have just started videoing. I told you 5 minutes ago I'm about to video, and then I said it's on. And you waited until now to go. And the poor guy, he had been at the beach all morning with the girls, and so he was only coming like to get milk for his tea. So then he went out of the kitchen, and then I smiled. But I now have a 9.5 minute video that I have to kind of condense down into about 45 seconds. So you have to watch the damn thing. And you have to cut it at exactly the right moment, and then kind of hope that you don't have a moment where you're frozen like that on the screen. I mean, So it is funny, but at the same time, I kind of love it. When I was 19, I wanted to be a journalist. That was my dream.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I also wanted to be a teacher because once I went into a classroom the first time ever, I knew there was nothing else for me. That was, my mother
Mm.
was a teacher too, and I really feel sometimes it's a vocation, and for me, it's a vocation. So there was nothing else for me, but the
Yeah.
whole journalist thing and the whole media side of it, it feeds another part of me that kind of is there since I was little, and it's kind of like that little dream thing, So you
Do you
get to
know
do the
what?
dream thing.
I have it in me as well a little bit. That's
Yeah,
that's why that's why I've got a podcast.
the podcast.
That's
Yeah,
why I have a show about football where we basically discuss the Premier League and the matches from the
yeah, that
previous
looks
round.
really interesting. I saw it, and I must share it with my nephews because I'm sorry, I'm not a football fan. My husband doesn't follow football, thank God. Well, he does. He follows Man City, who did very well this year, didn't they? Man City did. Did they win
They
something?
nah, they just won the title, but other than that, no.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, they did they did really well. They won the
Yeah,
league. Yeah,
exactly. Okay. But he's kind of a an erstwhile, I suppose would be the word for it, football supporter. It's not his passion. He loves horse racing and he follows the odds. He doesn't go to the races very often, but he would watch the betting and he'd watch the odds, and
yeah.
it's wonderful because the maths of that is like, it's
Does
fascinating. You know,
does he
the
bring a lot of money home from that?
He brings no money home, but and I amazingly, very often he goes, and what won today? Number three. So if you come to Ireland and you want to bet on a horse and you're not sure what, just back number three, because the number of number three horses that wins is definitely more than any other horse number.
There must be
But no, but
something about it
something,
then.
I don't know, it's weird. Um, so yeah, but the football one is really fascinating, and I think it's a really I love the way, looking at what you do. I love the way that you make English accessible in so many other ways, because I'm an English teacher and I kind of think I don't teach it as a foreign language normally. That's a kind of a side thing, but the idea of learning through all sorts of other things, it is wonderful. And even the cooking thing, I suppose you get the cooking lingo, learning
Yeah,
through the music, learning through the football. It's
it,
brilliant. So
it could be through anything. That's I also
yeah.
did. I made a learn English through a board games course as well. So the board
uh,
games you can see behind
why
me,
am I
like
not surprised?
look, these are all
I
my
know, I'm
board
looking.
games.
Yeah, I'm looking, going, do I recognize any of them? Wow. Mind you, we have a lot of board games here. We have maybe 30 board games in the house. It's a very
Mhm.
Irish thing too. And I
Is
was
it?
listening to you saying you brought your suitcase full of board games home.
I did,
Yeah,
yeah.
lots of lots of them. But I think, Zdenek, you should create a board game. That's the
I have
next
done
one
it.
for you.
I have done it.
But is it an online one?
You can only play it online. You know what my problem is sometimes, Orla, yeah? And
What?
that the same thing happened with my other projects. Whenever I get a little bit too creative, I tend to overdo things, overcomplicate things. So
Yeah.
the way I made the board game is just too complex. There are too many mechanics, and the
Okay.
modern board games they need like quick mechanics that everything
Yeah.
happens quickly and is simple to understand. My
Yeah.
board game has a learning curve. It
Okay.
it got quite popular, I would say, amongst the little community we had.
Okay.
I have like a Discord group dedicated to that game. We played it on a daily basis for about 4 years. We played it
Wow.
on a daily basis, but and the game has a lot of replayability. It's very like you
Okay.
every game is different. But the
Right.
problem is, how do you get it to the new people? That's the problem of the game
Yeah.
because it's just there is a learning curve, and a lot of people they just drop off. They drop out they just don't like the initial phase of what's this, you
Yeah.
know?
And I think that's the problem in society today. Like,
Mm,
I talk about this at school, it's that instant culture. Because
yeah,
if you're hungry, you have a microwave, so you can have food instantly. Where, I mean, you're not my age, but like 30 years ago, there was no such thing as a microwave. So if you wanted food, there was either bread or you had to wait for the meal to
yeah,
be made. And now we want everything instantly. We want to understand the games instantly. We want the meal to be quick. So, I mean, even for me, I used to think, can I do this? And then I thought, no, it's going to take me 9 minutes to make the damn thing. I can't condense 9 minutes and say this will take you 5 minutes to make, because it doesn't. That's the reality. So, yeah, so I think that's the problem. You're going to have to just simplify that board game, or that
I
online
can't.
game, or
I
make a
can't.
board game out of it.
I tried, but I can't
Really.
because the game was made in such a way. I spent so many years on it. I
Oh my
developed
God.
it for like 4 and 5 years, but because I'm not a professional board game designer. I'm an
I know.
amateur who just
Yeah.
loves it. Who just it was a passion project, and
Yeah.
that's the problem. Like they even tell you there are books about how you should and you shouldn't make games. And I
Yeah.
made that mistake of falling in love with my own game.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
fell in love with my own game. I kept improving it and like tweaking it here and there. There were a few people who were following me, who were following every single step I made with that game because they loved it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was just a close group of people. You know, it just doesn't.
I know.
It
It doesn't grow, it doesn't expand beyond that.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. And I suppose it's funny. Instagram is a bit like that. Like I have 2,600 followers. Um, And the thing is, how do you grow it, make it bigger than that? So I suppose when you get to about 5,000 followers, people start giving you products to try, and you kind of get little PR gifts and
Mm,
things.
mm,
Um, do I want to go there? Yes and no.
yeah,
So
I,
you kind of have to look at it and say, okay, what is the purpose of this? And for me, I suppose I'll do it as long as it brings me joy. If
yeah,
I get to 10,000 followers, whoopee. If I don't get to 10,000 followers, it's not the end of the day. I have another job, and this is not my job. This
yeah,
is just a pastime. I mean, and when I retire, will I do this? Well, I mightn't, because I might be in Spain sunning myself, because I love the sea and I love the sun, and I just love being abroad because Ireland is lovely. This week, wow, this week it's 28 degrees outside. It is incredible.
what?
Oh yeah,
That's
really.
that's a
Like
real heat wave there, actually,
a real
guys.
heat
Because
wave.
I was
Genuine.
there for a month, and most of the time it was around 19 degrees there, and that's summer we are talking.
Oh, sorry. That was a brilliant summer to get 19 degrees. And it didn't rain every day when you were there, Zdenek.
Yeah,
And
not
honestly,
much. Yeah,
a lot of the time it rains in Ireland, and they call it soft rain. So
mm.
soft rain is the kind of rain that feels like it's doing nothing, and it soaks you right through.
It's
So
like a
you literally,
drizzle. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, just that soft drizzle that is. I don't know if it's anywhere else in the world, but it's Irish
Not not
soft rain.
not in my country. I think
Yeah,
it's because of the oceanic weather, climate. Because
maybe.
I live in a landlocked country, so we don't really
Yeah,
get that at all.
yeah.
If it
Well,
rains, it's just drops of rain. You know, it's not like
yeah.
I don't know what it is, but
Soft rain, that's what it is.
rain, soft
Yeah.
rain. Yeah.
But no, so it's been very, very warm here.
Mm.
But it isn't normally. So,
Mhm.
but there you go. Yeah, so that's my blogging. So if it happens that it gets bigger, that's great. If it doesn't, that's fine.
I think
Uh,
it will because like you know what you seem to know what you're doing and you have that energy and that people follow people like that, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
well, I know, yeah, and it's fine. And as I said, another teacher at school actually has another blog, and it's a kind of a lifestyle blog. She's young, and her sister does it with her. They're home ec teachers, but home ec is home economics, so it's kind of cooking and sewing. But that's not what they do. They post, they're very young and gorgeous, and they post their holidays, and they post their trips abroad, and they post their clothes and nights out and cocktails they make. And so they started maybe 2 or 3 years ago, maybe 5 years ago now, and they're up to nearly 9,000.
yeah.
So, but I
But it's not
think
always about numbers, Orla, yeah? It's not always
that's the thing. For
it's
me, really, it's great when
no.
the numbers go up, but at the same time, when they don't go up, it's fine, because who
It's
am I doing it for? Well, I'm kind of doing it for the people who follow me, and the 700 or 800 people who look at my stories and who engage in the stories. That's the way, Zdenek, you have to do it. You have to put up, when you put up your story, you have to put up a little box. So people have to make a choice, or
yeah.
they have to make a smiley face. And
I've
it's
done it
all the
before, yeah.
little, yeah,
Yeah.
it's all the little things that you
I have
do
to do
that,
it I have to do it a little bit more, yeah.
yeah, but then do you have to? No, you
Yeah,
don't.
that's the thing. I sometimes don't feel like doing it, but you're right. Like
Exactly.
I have to think about these things as much as possible because
Yeah,
that's what
I
makes the
know.
difference in the end, yeah. But
I
now,
know.
like before, I didn't have to. Now it feels for me that I do because, as I said, it is my job now. I have to
Yeah.
find my own students. You know,
Yeah.
I think I've come a long way. Like I've learned a lot, but
Yeah.
there's still a lot of room for improvement as well. You know, it's
Well, for example,
just as it
uh,
is.
you can run a competition. So I ran a competition when I was getting to 1,000 followers. Um, and funnily enough, the prize was my chocolate biscuit cake that I mentioned earlier, Zdenek. It's quite popular. And so, people had to like and share the post, and that actually generated quite a lot of following. So people love competitions. And like the prize doesn't have to be a big prize. A single class can be a prize,
Yeah,
or you know, a board game session, or oh my God,
yeah.
I'm looking going, do you have two copies of the same board game there? When I Dream? Is that called
Sometimes
When I Dream? There you go. So,
I do.
if
Yeah.
you were willing to give up one copy of your board game,
You-
you
Do you
know,
know why? Do you know why I have that? That there's more like
like
that because for exactly the job that we were in. Because
yeah,
if you teach at summer camps,
yeah,
you teach groups, yeah, and
yeah,
so you're supposed to have 15 students, around 15 students, and most board games are not designed for 15 people. What you have
absolutely.
to do is to have multiple copies of the same game because then I can
Very
design. What I do is I design my lesson plans in a way that first they learn the games, they listen
okay.
to a video or something, they have a listening exercise, then they perhaps work with some language in order to be equipped for playing
Yeah,
that game. And then the final stage, the longest in the ideal world, is that they play the game. But
yeah,
well, hang on, there are 15 students. So how do they all play? Well, you need to have
yeah,
like three copies or two, sometimes two copies of the
yeah,
same game. And that's what
absolutely.
I did. That's what I did. I bought um, more copies of the same game so that I could use those games, the best games that work great in the class. I
Very
bought
good.
more copies and then use them in summer camps. Yeah,
Very good. So the next summer camp I'm going to, I'll be contacting you for tips then, Zdenek. For
anytime. I'm really happy to do that
yeah,
because it's just like my thing, and
yeah,
board games are brilliant. Like there's so much you can do with it, and people love it because it's different. You know,
yeah,
too many classes are boring. The teachers do the same thing, just using the
yeah,
book, and they don't
yeah,
even enjoy teaching. And this is something different. You know, there's a
yeah,
real game, real authentic. It's what's called authentic material, and
yeah,
that's always very
yeah,
motivating, enjoyable,
yeah,
and the students get really engaged with it. And
yeah,
even students that don't necessarily play games, they give it a chance, and you
yeah,
know, it works great. I have to say, it works great.
yeah. It's good in secondary school, in English class. I'm terrible because I never follow the book, and then at the end of the year, you think, "Oh, the parents paid for this book. We need to have a look at some of the stuff in it."
Yeah,
But you do. I tend to find my own material, and a place actually I go for more advanced English students. I absolutely love The Guardian. I don't know if any of your listeners
yeah,
follow The Guardian online, but their articles, like the quality of the English in them, as an English teacher
mm,
myself for the Leaving Cert students, it's wonderful. So,
mm,
I kind of amass um, lots of those articles, and I'll print them off. And when we have a sort of a reading session, instead of getting them to read a book and they kind of pick a rubbishy book from the library, I
yeah,
say, why don't you read this? So it's like about, there were different ones about the Met Gala and the fashion and
yeah.
finding things that they are interested in. So,
And
yeah.
they can even pick which article they want to read. So this is what
Ex-
I like
Yeah.
about this way of teaching. Yeah, using
Yeah.
authentic materials and
Yeah.
um, task. It's called task-based approach as well. I think it's connected to that as well. Task-based approach.
Very
And
good.
yeah, I'm a big fan of this myself. Yeah.
There you go. You see, I don't have all the terminology. I just go, oh, yeah, it's just teaching, whatever that is.
Yeah, you're doing the same thing. You know, great
Exactly.
minds think alike.
Exactly. Very good. Very good.
Yeah. So, Orla, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Please tell us
Thank
again before
you.
we wrap this up. Tell us again what the name of your Instagram account is, because hopefully some of my viewers who like cooking and who might want to learn a few, are these all Irish recipes, or are they just Orla's
Absolutely not.
recipes?
They're just
Oh,
family friendly recipes. They're recipes for when friends come. They're recipes for days when there are a few kind of complicated recipes for, sort of showcase things if you want to um, impress people. But lots of them are things that you can cook in bulk and freeze because that's my life. So it's
mhm.
Irish Mammy Cooks. And
Yep.
if anybody wants to come on and DM me a recipe that they'd like me to try from another country, I'm always open to that as well. So
Wow.
yeah,
Well, the
so
listeners of this podcast come from different countries, so they might as
there
well
you go. So
follow
they
you
can
and do that.
exactly they can send me a recipe and say you should try this, and I'll do an Irish Mammy Cooks version of it because I never do
Uh-huh.
anything the way it's supposed to be
And
done, as you know.
and I think and I think my listeners shouldn't only follow you for the cooking itself, or for the recipes, for the food. They should follow you for your English too, because you see, the the listeners are learning English. They're English learners at
Yeah,
different levels, and I think your English is brilliant. And as you said yourself, your accent is not like a super strong
no,
Irish accent. I think people can understand you. Well,
yeah.
they have
I
managed
think
to follow this podcast this far, so that's the proof.
yeah.
You know,
And
so
I also think um that's a thing that is very important to me. I have sometimes obviously I have typos, but the English in my podcast is good English. And so many people that you follow on Instagram. I mean, I just unfollow because I just cannot look at the grammar, and I can't look at the mistakes, and I can't listen to the mistakes. And my children laugh and they say, "Mommy, would you have married Daddy if his grammar was bad?" I said, "Of course I wouldn't, because if he had used incorrect grammar, he'd just have been dumped immediately because grammar is important." I mean, my mother was a primary teacher, and my children used to correct their teachers at school when they were little, when the grammar was wrong. So, yeah, so the grammar and the English in there is good, and hopefully a little bit fresh. And, you know, because I suppose there's a little bit of a writer in me, hopefully it'll be
mhm,
inspiring sometimes as well for people. So,
fantastic. So thank
thank
you
you.
very much, Orla, for being on the podcast, and I hope it's not the last time, because it's very obvious that you have a lot of things to say. So
There you go.
it
You
would be
just get
lovely
in touch.
to invite you back one
Absolutely.
day.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's the joy of doing something for a short time, Zdenek. For me, the joy in working in the English camp with you, even for a short time, was the people I met there. And I just
Yeah.
think, and I think that's what the pandemic has done for people. It has opened our lives and made us realize there's a whole world out there, and I suppose kind of shaken us up from just our complacency and made us realize that, it doesn't happen if we don't just get up and do. So it was really lovely. So
Absolutely.
really
Yeah.
nice to talk to you. Thank you so much for
Nice to talk
inviting
to you
me.
too. And I have to say, I often do interviews with people I have never met in real life. But it's a
Okay.
bit different to talk to you, because I have met you in real life. So,
Exactly. There you go. So it's
all
just like
right.
sitting at that canteen table.
Not exactly the same, but
No, definitely
close
not.
enough. Close enough.
Exactly. Okay. Thank you so
All right.
much.
All right.
Take
Thank
care.
you very much. And good luck with the blog and with the Instagram account and everything you
Thank you.
do.
Okay. Thanks a
Bye.
million. Bye.
Bye.